Hey guys, it's Robin, and I'm here to talk to you about sugar detoxing. If you've been with me for any time, you know that it's a vicious cycle, and I talk about not fat being the enemy, but sugar being the enemy. And I am here to tell you more about it, dedicated strictly to sugar. So, number one, I've got my notes here. Sugar is the most addicting food substance in the United States, and it has been compared to the addiction to cocaine and heroin, and not just by habit, but by the molecular chemical change in your body when you consume sugar. So, and then I want to just caveat that with saying that artificial sugar is no better. I would rather you consume sugar than artificial sweeteners. So with the molecular change in your body with sugar, compound that with processing and additional chemicals that are put together to make your body feel like you're consuming sugar, but you're not. It's tested on animals, and the research is showing that all the animals that have been tested, not all, like I don't have numbers, but those animals are coming back with cancer, with tumors, with, obese, because what happens is the same thing happens with false sugar or sugar substitute that does with sugar. Okay, so let's talk about what happens. When you consume sugar, your insulin spikes because that's the reaction to the sugar intake. When you don't burn that sugar, which we're not going to run a marathon after we have our donut or our muffin in the morning, it immediately grabs onto that sugar and it is stored as fat. So the insulin storage is stored as fat. And it's pretty protected, so it's not like we're going to burn it off anytime soon. It's harder to burn off than it is to consume and start collecting. You all know that, right? So sugar's in many forms. The first thing I want to talk about is the forms of sugar and how they're hidden. So with this presentation, I will actually list a bunch of things I want you to look for, and it's going to be an assignment. It's like I want you to take your ketchup out of the refrigerator or something out of your pantry and look to see if you can find any of these ingredients on it. And the number one enemy of present day is high fructose corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup is going by corn syrup. It's going by different names because we're getting smart to the high fructose corn syrup. It is the most processed and most quickly absorbed sugar that you can take, and the slower absorbed into our body is better. Okay, so you all know that fruit is fructose, has sugar in it, as do some starchy vegetables. The fiber in the skin, in the way that it's absorbed into the system, is less hazardous to us than just simply eating simple sugars, okay, like table sugar or candies and pastries. And we even know that white bread and white rice and white pasta, all of that basically is sugar. That's what it turns into. So it's not just, don't think just candy, cakes, cupcakes, etc. So sugar is not good for us. In fact, it's very toxic. So it's the main contributor to type 2 diabetes, which is the adult onset of diabetes. And it contributes to heart disease and, of course, obesity. So this was kind of shocking to me. The average person eats 150 pounds of sugar per year. So that's like a person. That's how much sugar that they eat. Now that doesn't mean that they're putting like this much sugar in their food, but it's the food that they're eating that has the sugar. Okay, so keep that in mind. How much sugar is, let's say, authorized or recommended? So this is the American Heart Association. recommends that less than 6 teaspoons of sugar per day for women and less than 9 teaspoons of sugar per day for men. And that's about equivalent to 100 to 150 calories. So what happens when we eat sugar? The reason sugar, if you hear of people being on sugar high and people wanting sugar as a comfort food, it's true because there's chemicals and hormones in sugar that our brain associates as very pleasing. There's serotonin and dopamine, and those are similar to what we get when we exercise or when we're intimate with someone that we love. They're feel-good hormones, and they're released when we eat sugar. But it's the devil in disguise, trust me. The more we eat sugar, the more we want sugar. And it's something that, you can just go, well, I'm going to have a little bit. I'm going to just have a little sugar. Well, a little sugar is going to lead to a lot of sugar. So they actually when we talk about moderation, I don't even want you to think about moderation of sugar. I want you to think about moderation of our treat meals, but not of sugar on a daily basis, because that in itself should be maybe programmed into our treat meals, but not something that we can get away with daily, because as you can see, we're not going to be able to get away with it daily without it affecting us. So who's to blame? The food industry. I've said this also before. The food industry is manufacturing their foods with the chemicals and the processing to not allow us to feel satiated with the amount of sugar. So like the bag of chips, I think it was Lay's potato chips, you can't just eat one. You really can't just eat one. You will want to continue to eat. And not only that, the more sugar that you eat, it decreases the ability for us to know when we're full. So, and it decreases our immune system. It really affects our immune system. So this was really interesting for me to find out. And I want you all to watch for it within yourselves and within your Facebook friends. So we're in a window of massive sugar consumption. Starts with Halloween and ends the 1st of January, right? So we've got Halloween, we've got treats of Thanksgiving, we start baking and cooking and for Thanksgiving through Christmas, when there's, candy in the stockings and leftover treats, and takes us through the end of December. Within that 3 months, America consumes probably the most amount of sugar throughout the year. And it decreases our immunity. It's toxic to our body. Our body is so busy in fighting the sugar that in the effects of the sugar in our body that it can't fight off diseases. So watch how many people get totally bonked and sick in January. And I remember this to be true because this is the 3rd year I've been, offering fitness challenges, and the first of the year is always the time that everybody's, has resolutions. And so many people are like, oh, I wanted to kick it hard, but I'm sick. And this is like making sense to me now. So really important. And so here's the thing too, is when you think about health and wellness and sugar, think about kids. The kids and we're feeding them these fruit juice drinks, and this is the other thing, if it says that it's made with concentrate fruit, that means that's all they have to say. They don't have to say what the ingredients are. So high fructose corn syrup, I'm sure, is in one of the top ingredients. So here we're allowing our kids to get sick by filling them with sugar and decreasing their immune system, which is already, lower than average adult, because they're growing and building. So if you know of someone that has a sickly child, kind of inquire and maybe let them know that sugar might be a part of it. I know it's really hard to get involved in someone like that. We were at church, my daughter and I guess it was last month, and we get coffee before we go to church, and there was this mom who had this baby, just a toddler, not even like walking, maybe just walking, and was still in the sippy cup. She put Pepsi in the sippy cup and was, feeding the baby the Pepsi, it might have been Coke, in the sippy cup. Actually, I think it was Dr. Pepper. And then on top of that, her grandmother come behind her, the mother of the mother, so the grandmother of the baby, came behind her with a sugary glazed donut muffin type of thing, and was feeding her that. And the dog just walked in, and that's okay. So, so thank you. My husband just closed the door. So, and I wanted to say something, but who was I to say something? Where do I start? I didn't know this person, but, you know, really, really good to know. So is the food industry to blame? You know, we've got to get smart on reading labels, and you know, one of the things that I remember is a you know, new mom and my daughter wanting sugary cereals. It's like, I really didn't want to get these. However, you got some of the boxes that said new, improved, lower sugar, fortified with iron, you know, more fiber. Well, yay, but no, it still wasn't a healthy choice. Then we know now what we know about the pink slime and McDonald's and you know, washing the foods and ammonia and the sugar they put in the French fries, everything, even sugar and ketchup. So even the condiments. So you really have to look for hidden sugars. We are in control of you know, what we put in our mouths and what we put, you know, out in our body as far as our exercise. So that's what this is what we're in charge of, is what we eat and what we do. So read the food labels, and it's recommended that you get 5 grams of sugar or less as far as what you take off the shelf to put in your cart or bring home. So the ingredients should be 5 grams of sugar or less, and that's really going to be challenging. So here's something that helps me out a lot too. It might not say like you're going to go, well, how many teaspoons and how many grams of sugar. So this is how you figure out the teaspoons. So if you take the grams of sugar, okay, and you divide it by 4, that equals the teaspoons per serving. Okay, so if you have something with 16 grams of sugar, you divide that by 4, it's about 4 teaspoons of sugar in that serving. So what if your serving was like a half a cup? You've got 4 teaspoons of sugar and a half a cup, you've already, you know, that's it. That's your allocation for the day, right? You've got 2 more teaspoons. It all adds up. So that was an interesting fact for me. When you start decreasing the sugar intake, whether you choose to go cold turkey or not, I just basically needed to go cold turkey. I always do a Shakeology 3-day cleanse, which helps me. I mean, I know better. And yesterday, you know, we had the whole hype of the Christmas stockings, and my Santa filled it with some things I wish he wouldn't have. You know, my triggers, my weak spots, like, yeah, well, it's Christmas morning. I didn't feel like get up to get breakfast. So, you know, just have 1 or 2. And you know, a cookie here, and it just you know, and what happens is when that happens, when you start off with sugar, you're gonna want sugar all day. And again, you know, I had the sugar, then I went to eat, and it decreased my ability to know when I was full because I was already full of sugar, and I overate, and I felt like crap. I mean, I came home in a coma, a food coma, and I woke up this morning feeling hungover. I didn't have 1 drink yesterday. So it was all that. So I'm human. I'm with you. So I'm trying to teach as we go. The other thing that's going to help you to resist sugar and to detox from sugar is, of course, water and green tea. And I've been drinking green tea all day. I'll probably be up all night, but I really need it, and I love green tea. And this loose leaf is best. Some really good quality green tea costs money, but I tell you, I promise you it's worth it. And then, of course, water. The more water you drink, you're flushing the sugar, you're flushing the fat. And as always, half your body weight in ounces is what's recommended. And then make sure that you get sleep, because the less sleep you get, it's like drinking alcohol. You're not inhibitions, that's right. So you're like, yeah, well, whatever, I'm tired, and that's the reason for me, and you're going to crave sugar because you're tired already. Cortisol is like running through your body and high, and you're not going to have the resistance to go, no. Okay, so make sure you get your sleep. Pay attention to how you feel after you eat. That's why we started the journal. You know, I want you to be aware of how you feel. I want you to know, you know, like right now our bodies are so toxic with sugar that it doesn't even react the way that it should if you were healthy. And I know that a couple of you have done Biggest Loser 2 with us this last year, and you were witness to the fact that when you start eating clean and eating healthy, all of a sudden, when you do eat crap, your body goes, ugh, you know, what did you do, and you feel awful? Well, that's your body telling you that, you know, this is not good for me and I don't want it. Well, when we're not even there yet. You're contributing daily. Your body's thinking, okay, well, it's so toxic anyways. It doesn't